is Cortex Jupyter integration? So Cortex Jupyter is basically an open source Python package which you can install using pip. So it combines the power of both Cortex and Jupyter notebooks. So basically you can use this Python package to store all of your Jupyter notebooks, checkpoints, data files, and everything that you load onto the Cortex object storage. So what it basically does is that it replaces the Jupyter standard file system storage with the Cortex storage. So anything that you do in the Jupyter notebook will be saved in the Cortex object storage. So this is particularly helpful, let's say if you want to share your Jupyter notebooks to your colleagues or work with them. If you want your Jupyter notebook to be accessible to you from anywhere or any device, then Cortex Jupyter integration is definitely the way to go. Because all of your Jupyter notebooks, checkpoints, and data files, everything will be stored on the Cortex object storage, so you can actually access it from anywhere on the go. And this, you can also use this to collaborate with each other, and you can just give your colleagues the access to the S3, and they can simply use any of the files or any of the models that you've previously trained and get started with their work. Highlight some of the features that we have implemented in the Python package for this integration. So you can save notebooks, checkpoints, and data files to Cortex, like I mentioned before, and you can restore from any of the previous checkpoints. So basically, for a file, multiple checkpoints are saved, and so suppose, let's say if you already have your notebooks on any of the S3, so you can seamlessly migrate it to Cortex using Cortex Jupyter integration. And we have also implemented a few APIs that you can use to interact with the Cortex object storage. Let's say you want to read some data from the Cortex object storage or write some data to Cortex object storage. We have provided out of the box APIs that you can use, and you can also store your pre-trained machine learning models, and also read your pre-trained machine learning models and continue fitting and predicting from the pre-trained models. So these are some of the features that I would like to highlight. And we also support deleting notebooks and renaming notebooks uh, through Jupyter. And Jupyter Notebook is also not blocked when the requests are made, because all of the code that we have implemented in our Python package are implemented asynchronously. So you don't have to worry about any sort of blockage. Okay, let us see the demonstration of all the functionalities that we have implemented in our Python package, Cortex Jupyter. So as we can see that the Jupyter Notebook has been loaded into its default URL, and you can see that these all of these notebooks, files, and folders are all fetched from the actual Cortex server. So let's actually check in the CyberDuck and make sure that it's actually fetching from there. So as you can see, these files have been fetched from there. And let me create a new Jupyter notebook and name it as test notebook. And let me refresh here and to make sure that it's actually created the notebook in the Cortex server. And let me just write few temporary methods, and I'll save whatever I've written. And here you can see that it has actually created a checkpoint. Let's double check that it's created checkpoint in our Cortex server as well. So as you can see, it has created a single checkpoint. Now let me write another method, and save. And we can see that it has created another checkpoint, and the same thing can be seen here as well. Let me revert to any of the checkpoint. So as you can see that my notebook has reverted to the previous checkpoint that I've created. And let us see what happens when I delete this notebook. So as you can see here, it has disappeared because I deleted it. Let me double check here, and you can see that it is deleted here as well. And an API layer which contains method that you can use to interact with the Cortex server. That is, let's say you want to save a file to Cortex server from your code, or save your pre-trained machine learning models to your Cortex server. At the same time, we have also implemented methods that can be used to download any of the pre-trained models that is present in your Cortex server, and start fitting and predicting the model without having to train the model all over again. So let's see a demonstration of that. How to upload a file to your Cortex server. So you can use direct upload from Jupyter itself. Let me just grab some file. So let's just see. So this is a CSV file that I'm loading, and you can see that the CSV file has been loaded. And let me double check here that it's loaded. So you can see that the CSV file has been saved to the Cortex server. And let me also download this locally just to show the download functionality. And you can see that I can download it without any hassle. So yeah, so these are some of the functionalities that we have built and supported with the help of Cortex Jupyter Python package. Given 3 notebooks which demonstrates how you can use the methods, which is the read data, read model, write data, write model, for 3 different machine learning and deep learning packages, which is Keras, PyTorch, and TensorFlow. Because of the time constraint, I'll be demonstrating just for Keras. So let's see the demo. Let me execute all the input statements. So these are the methods that we have implemented to interact with the Cortex server to either read data or write data, or even read a pre-trained model and write a pre or save a pre-trained model to Cortex server. So we have already loaded a data set into our Cortex server called as ionosphere, so which you can see here. So this is the data that we'll be using for our demo. So here I am defining the model. Let me load a pre-trained model which is called as Keras model to the Cortex server, and let me see if it has been loaded. So you can see that it is loaded. Now let me just for demonstration purpose just load the pre-trained model from the Cortex server, so that we can use and use the pre-trained model without having to train it all over again. And yeah, so here we are using the existing model that we loaded from the Cortex server to make a prediction. As you can see, it works properly. And so here is a demonstration of how you can just use this read data method to read the data, read any file that is present in your Cortex server, as an example of how you can write any of the data that you've used to the Cortex server. So I've created something called processed input. Let me double check if it's here. So you can see that it's been loaded to S3. So yeah, this way you can actually use these methods without having to perform any additional changes in the configuration file. This is actually very easy to use these without, because it kind of avoids having to change anything in the configuration or an installation of any other Python packages. So using these methods which come with the Python package Cortex Jupyter, you can read and write models or data. So these are the models that come out of the box from our Python package. So you don't have to install any other additional package nor make any changes in the configuration file. And as you can see that it can easily be used to interact with your Cortex server to either read or write any file or model for that matter.